Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Disability Channel. I'm your host, Rachel Handler, and I'm so excited to welcome Casey Marshall to the show. Casey is such a phenomenal person, and I'm thrilled she agreed to be interviewed today. I would love to talk to her about, her journey to New York because she's not a native New Yorker like most New Yorkers. We all travel to the city with our hopes and dreams from somewhere else in the country. So, Casey, thank you so much for being here. I would love for you to just, introduce yourself, where you're from, all the good stuff.
Yeah, I grew up in Danville, Indiana, and I moved to New York in 2019, so right before the pandemic and everything hit. But I studied here in I think it was 2017, and that's when I really fell in love with New York and knew this is where I wanted to be.
Awesome. Awesome. So, 2017, you traveled here. Were you here for a vacation, a work trip, school?
It was for school. I did a semester here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. What did you learn while you were here? Was there an experience you had or something that you really loved while you were here that inspired you to want to move here?
Yeah, I got to go to my first New York Fashion Week, which was really cool. Yeah, that was an amazing
Amazing.
experience. I got to see 2 shows and do the lines out front, which is, like, part of the experience, I feel like, where they come and take pictures and all of that stuff, but I really enjoyed that, and I think that made me very excited and loved just, like, the atmosphere here and, like, the fashion scene.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Do you remember what those two shows were by any chance?
Yeah, it was, Leanne Marshall was the one. I was an intern for Leanne Marshall at the time.
So cool. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Wow. Wow. That's amazing. I am such a fan of New York Fashion Week. I think I've never been to like Paris Fashion Week or London Fashion Week, but I do think New York is really paving the way in a lot of ways. Because we have Runway of Dreams, which is really
Yes.
special. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how we met. Gosh, 2019, I think at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, Runway of Dreams, for those who don't know, is just an amazing organization. I think I've mentioned them before, but they put on fashion shows and always hire and include models with disabilities. And the fashion is all adaptive, which is really cool. I still wear my Nike adaptive sneakers that they gifted me every day. There are zippers instead of shoelaces and Velcro, so you can easily do it with one hand. It doesn't require much dexterity. Kizik is another brand of shoes that is really great. Have you heard of Kizik, Casey? Have you
I
worked with them at
haven't.
all?
No.
Okay. Yeah, they're pretty cool. They, I think, are actually sponsored by Nike, maybe. And they are hands-free shoes, so you can just slide them on, and they're super cute.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. Do you remember what you wore for that fashion show, Casey?
Definitely, yeah. I had some really cool Vans, that had a Velcro opening to make them easier to get on. I love wearing Vans, and I still wear my those shoes from the show as well. And then I had Tommy Hilfiger jeans, that had Velcro openings. And then I wore a Vans, crop shirt because I'm so short that usually crop shirts fit me, better, just, lengthwise. And then it was a Vans jacket that had the checkered board down the sleeve, which I loved.
Nice. Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome. I remember that outfit. That was so cute.
it was
Yeah,
so much
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it was so fun. And I think that year we were all wearing like Zappos adaptive and Tommy adaptive. Maybe Kohl's. I forget if Kohl's was there yet. Yeah. But I mean, now I just went to the Runway of Dreams fashion show with the Disability Channel last year, 2021, September. And there are more designers and more clothes selling adaptive wear, it seems, than ever before. Has that been your experience? Are you seeing a growth in this movement?
Definitely. It's exciting to see it grow because I think we went from, whenever I was in high school, I didn't see anything like this.
Yeah.
And we progressed so like fast with it. Brands are popping up all the time. And I think with that too is you see more representation in like Target with their ads. And I don't know, I think brands are like finally taking notice, which is awesome.
Yeah, it really is, and they're making money, you know? It's the
Yeah.
money makes the world go round, and when you forget about 25% of the population living with a disability, you're missing out on money from that part of the population who
Right.
want to
Yeah.
buy cute clothes.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
definitely.
yeah. I'm just curious, as, someone with a disability, growing up with a disability, um, what inspired you to want to work in the fashion industry, especially when there weren't a lot of brands focused on adaptive wear? There weren't a lot of models even 10 years ago with disabilities. Yeah.
So I always loved fashion. Like even in kindergarten, I had sketchbooks and crayon of my designs. So it's definitely like always been part of my DNA. Like even as as long as I could remember, I would say I wanted to be a fashion designer. But then I started to get more serious about it in middle school and high school when I started to learn how to sew. And I kind of I always kind of had to adapt clothing to fit my body. I have scoliosis, which makes it really hard to wear wovens. Because if you think about how tight and they're definitely made for the standing body and for someone that has a straight spine. So they have no give, and I would really struggle. I would mostly wear knits. And so
Mhm.
I would have to adapt my clothes to be able to fit my body, whether it be hemming my pants, which a lot of people have to do, or my prom dress had to have lots of alterations to be able to fit my body. So I that's when like the wheels kind of started turning for me and how we could make clothing more accessible to people with disabilities.
Wow. Wow. Even you just saying those terms, wovens versus knits, I'm like, oh, I guess I've never thought of clothing in that way. But
Yeah.
yeah, like would something like cotton, would that be more of a knit because it gives a little more give, or is that more of a woven?
It depends on how it's used. So yeah, it could be
Okay.
used for either
Gotcha.
category. But
Cool.
yeah, a lot even some of the wovens that have stretch tend to work better because it has a little bit more give, which
Yeah.
kind of gives more adjustability.
Yeah, for sure. I always like even when I go to the gym, I always lean towards like a looser, stretchy
Yeah,
clothing item than something
yeah,
like super tight because it's so hard to pull over my prosthetic leg.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I remember like working with Runway of Dreams and Zappos Adaptive, them saying like your workout should not be getting your clothes on.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah, I was so that was like a light bulb moment, like, yeah, why would I deal with that? So now I just have to work a little bit to find clothes that work best for my body. But Nike has some great stuff, and even like I've been able to find some stuff on Fabletics that works really well.
Yeah.
But even like some sports bras with all the straps in the back and everything, it's like an Olympic sport to get them like untangled, you know?
It really is.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so what are you up to now that you've been in the city for a
Yeah.
bit? Well, not that long. I mean, what's a year or two, you know? But just wondering, like, are you still working in fashion? How is all of that going?
Yeah, so when I first moved here, I was doing adaptive consulting. So a lot of brands are looking to move into this market, and they don't know how. And so I would come in and kind of help them. Sometimes it's not even an adaptive clothing line. Sometimes it's how does their product currently work for people with disabilities, and how can they market
Mm,
that. And then sometimes it is they want to start an adaptive line, and I come in and I can help them with that. So yeah, I've got to work with some amazing brands to do that. And currently, I am working with one company as a associate designer. Uh, but I love fashion and I love a challenge. And I think that adaptive fashion kind of became my passion, because I got to connect something so personal like my disability to what I love, and that is fashion. And it kind of gave it like a higher purpose for me.
I love that. I'm all about the higher purpose of a
Yeah.
job now. Let's take a quick commercial break, and I want to keep discussing what you're working on now and more adaptive fashion. So we will be right back.
We are unstoppable,
We shoot for the stars.
and we can achieve anything we set our minds to.
We're entrepreneurs,
We are community leaders.
athletes,
artists.
Organic farmers.
We are mothers and daughters.
Unstoppable.
unstoppable.
And yet, people with disabilities probably can't use your website.
To buy your shoes.
Order your food,
Apply for your job. To use your data insights.
just like everybody else.
For millions of Americans.
America.
Like me.
Like me.
Like me. Me. Me.
Like me.
The internet is inaccessible.
Hey, if your business has a website, make it accessible.
For everyone.
Unlock web accessibility with Accessiby. It's simple and affordable.
And don't just do it to be compliant.
Do it because it's the right thing to do.
Web accessibility is Accessiby. Start your free trial today.
Hey, I'm Tiger Williams, and you're watching the Disability Channel, and support Easter sales all year round, and thank you very much.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Today Show. My name is Chris Power, and I'll be taking over for Unstoppable Tracy. For more information, please go to thedisabilitychannel.ca.
All right, we are back with Casey Marshall. We were just talking about what she's working on now with adaptive fashion as a fashion designer. And I'm just wondering, with your job now, are you're working with a company who's working on adaptive clothes, but are you experiencing any sort of pushback with some ideas because of budgeting concerns or anything like that? I know, like for me as an actor, I get told all the time that shows want to be more inclusive. But then when you ask for something like a ramp or something that might cost some sort of money for accessibility, it's like you get a lot of pushback. But then those same shows are, flying in celebrities and spending $20,000 on a whim for what that celebrity wants. So then the accessibility, we can't afford that, but we can afford, a pumpkin flown in from Guam or something. So I'm just curious, at this job or other jobs, have you experienced something like that where you're getting pushback because of money reasons?
I think the biggest thing, like as a whole in the adaptive world, is how expensive that adaptive clothing currently is, and that's something that I'm really trying to convey to brands, that it should be at a lower price point. If you look at just numbers and how many people with disabilities are on disability income versus people who work, even people with higher paying jobs usually have lots of out-of-pocket costs, medical bills, and things like that. So they're less likely to splurge on clothing. So I think that one of the most important things about adaptive fashion is keeping it affordable, because making it more affordable makes it more accessible. Whenever it is at that high price point, who is it accessible for? It really cuts down who can purchase that.
Wow, that is so true. I'm really glad you said that, because I have noticed, like, there's a specific pair of jeans that I want to buy, and they can be altered, or they already have zippers up the sides, and they are really expensive. And it's limiting, there are brands out there starting to market to people with disabilities, but they are super expensive, and it does make it inaccessible. I'm like, especially for people with disabilities, we need like an H&M that's all about adaptive wear, like that's an affordable price point for all. I'm all about like Nordstrom Rack, and I literally was just shopping in an H&M yesterday looking
Yeah.
for a blazer. So it's like, you know, I want high quality. That's a shirt that's like gonna last for more than 2 days, but also has adaptive, you know, maybe doesn't have the tiny little buttons that you have to, you know, spend 10 minutes buttoning just as someone who doesn't have dexterity issues, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm really glad you said that. Yeah. Do you have any stores that you're a big fan of right now for shopping for adaptive wear? I know we mentioned like Zappos Adaptive. Do you have any that you would recommend our viewers check out?
Yeah, I think Zappos is one of the major ones, and their customer
Yeah.
service just makes it so easy to find what you're looking for because they really do help you. It's almost like having your own personal shopper when you have issues, and like they really can point you in the right direction. So I really like that about Zappos. And then Patty and
Yeah.
Ricky is another one that is great for looking for adaptive products, and it's owned by someone with a disability, which makes it, I think, more special too.
Awesome. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
I'll have to check out Patty and Ricky. I think I already follow them on Instagram, but I will
yeah.
have to check it out for sure. Yeah. Great tip. Listeners, listen up. Cool. Oh my gosh, Casey, this is so fun. I feel like I just saw you, but it literally has been since pre-pandemic times in
I
2019 when I saw you. Yeah,
yeah,
it's wild. It's wild. I mean, New York is like back and it's feeling sort of safe. It's not quite the same, you know?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, wearing masks into places, getting vaccination cards checked. As someone with a disability living in such a big city, how has it been for you, you know, getting through this pandemic? Did you go back home at all? Did you stick it out here in the city? How's it been for you?
Whenever the first the first week when things were like starting to unfold, we didn't know how serious it was gonna be. Toilet paper was flying off the shelves.
Yeah.
Like way back then, I had a trip home scheduled because I was gonna go and see my family for a couple weeks. I had just accepted a job position, so I was gonna go home for a couple weeks and see them. And then all of that started happening, and I moved the trip up because we were worried that everything was gonna shut down. We were like worried that planes and flights were gonna get canceled and shut down. And I didn't want to be stuck here, so I got on the plane and I went home. It was supposed to be for 2 weeks. I got there in March and I ended up leaving in September. So I wrote it out at home with my family because I lived in a studio apartment by myself at the time, and
Mhm.
I did not want to be stuck in lockdown all by myself. So it was definitely a
Yeah.
good idea for me to go home and get to be around other people.
For sure. That's so
Yeah.
nice. I can't imagine how hard it must have been on our mental health, especially for people quarantining alone in studio apartments. I've seen some very artistic short films made during the pandemic by people living alone, and I'm just like blown away by the creativity and the resilience that I saw. It's really incredible. I think, you know, as people with disabilities living in New York during a pandemic still, it warms my heart to see New York still taking the pandemic so seriously. Like I mentioned, like here in New Orleans, you still have to get your vaccination cards checked at restaurants, but people are not wearing masks outside like at all anymore. Um, and it is a little concerning, you know, for people with disabilities, especially if they want to come check out a parade and are, you know, vulnerable, more vulnerable to the pandemic because we're all vulnerable.
Right.
um, that might hold you back from experiencing something that everyone else gets to do because no one's wearing a mask, but you know, really do need to and should only be around people in masks. So. I just think it's important to still remember there is a pandemic, and I am grateful to live in a city that is still taking it very seriously. For me, I had COVID, and I still have some chest tightness every now and then from it. The lingering effects are really concerning. And since we don't know much about it, I think it's still really important to, keep in mind that this pandemic is raging on with a little bit of no end in sight. So as
Yeah.
people who live in such a big city, concerning, Yeah. Casey, thank you for joining us. I feel like we talked through a lot, but I'm worried I didn't ask you as many questions as I should have. Is there anything we didn't touch on that you would really like to mention and make sure our viewers know, either about your journey to New York or adaptive fashion or your job right now, anything like that?
Yeah, I guess my Instagram, I've been trying to show a little bit about, the disability experience. Recently, I had posted about my experience of trying to get my wheelchair fixed, and how the process takes months. So I really try to use my Instagram to educate. I think a lot of people don't realize what it is like for someone with a disability to live in New York. I've talked about, the subway being inaccessible. I've talked about, disability pride and all kinds of topics related to disability. And I hope to continue that.
Yeah,
My
that's
Instagram,
awesome.
yeah. So my handle is Casey. So it's KAYCEE Couture on Instagram.
Awesome. Go follow at Casey Couture on Instagram. And I am at Bionic Brunette. So if you can't find her, click on me on my people I'm following, and she'll be right there. KAYCEE. Awesome. Thank you so much, Casey, for joining us. I've so appreciated hearing your perspective on the fashion industry and New York. We could have done a whole show on the accessibility of public transit in New York City. Maybe that'll be the next time we chat. I just have a follow-up question actually about that, because I wrote a short film about accessibility on the New York City subway system, and how frustrated I was to learn that when Astoria was adding these brand new gorgeous subway stops, they were refurbishing them all. They neglected to add elevators or escalators to all but one of them, and they spent probably billions of dollars at this point making them look prettier, making them fixing them up. So I'm just wondering, when you travel through New York, I know for a lot of us, we prefer the subways, but so many of them are inaccessible that I've ended up taking the bus a few times, and I find the bus system way more confusing than the subways and way less efficient and routine, So I'm just wondering, when you travel around, have you gotten stuck under the subways and not been able to get to somewhere with an elevator? And do you use the bus because of that? Just curious on your experience.
Yeah, I hate the subway. I don't take the subway anymore. I had one too many times of getting there and an elevator being broken, even though, you have to check before you even leave to see what elevators are running. And I checked, and it was actually when I lived in Harlem. So I was supposed to get off at 125th, and I ended up being all the way up at Yankee Stadium, because that was the next one with an elevator. And then I had to get out there and try to find a bus to take me back in it was a whole mess. After that experience, I did not trust the subway anymore. So I take the bus mainly, and the bus takes so much longer. It really is not efficient, but it's safer for me. I know that I'm not going to get trapped somewhere, and that's the thing too, is you don't know which ones are going to be broken, so then you'll get somewhere and you're at an entirely different place than your destination. So for me, I just think it's much easier to take the bus because it's much more reliable. But yeah, no, they're not good with accessibility, and the ones that have elevators aren't necessarily working elevators. So it was interesting that you said that about them not adding elevators when they redid it, because I think back, Jeremy Scott, I think, did a show in an elevator platform, Did you see
Oh my
about that?
gosh. I didn't know. I'll have to check that out. Jeremy
Yeah, so
Scott.
he had a model in a wheelchair, like in the show, and he added a ramp that went down the stairs. It was like one of those like stair lifts, so that way it was a power wheelchair user could be a model in the show. So I'm like, if Jeremy Scott can make it accessible, you would think that the city would do a better job about it.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Bravo, Jeremy Scott, Accessible Runway Fashion Show.
Yeah.
Shame on New York City transportation.
Right.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, and shout out to Theater Breaking Through Barriers, who actually did a short play about a wheelchair user getting stuck underground. And it was so funny and so moving. Oh my gosh, we could chat all day. Thank you, Casey, for sharing your perspective. It is so appreciated and so needed. I've had the best time chatting with you. And again, follow Casey on Instagram at Casey Couture. I can't wait until next time. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Hi, I am the host of Veterans Onward to Prosperity, Master Sergeant Retired Anna Maria Bliven, and I have a public announcement to share. February 22nd, 2022, so that's 2022, is a very special day. We have a special day lined up with events that not only will bring awareness to a very serious issue that is felt here in the United States, and I'm told all around the world, but military suicide is on the rise, folks. Military suicide is something that can definitely be prevented, and we're certainly going to work toward preventing it. Learn more about this at 2-22TOSAVE.com. That's 2-22 T as in Tom, O as in Oscar, save22.com. It's 222 to save22.com. And join us and be a part of that very special day that we honor to protect and prevent our military brothers and sisters from committing suicide.
Hi, I'm Casey McKay, and be sure to watch Press Box on the Disability Channel. It's some great stuff we're covering, so be sure to tune in. Again, I'm Casey McKay, reporting for the Disability Channel, and I'll see you soon.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on the Disability Channel, The Today Show, New York. I hope you gleaned something from my conversation with Casey Marshall. She's a wonderful fashion designer, star on the rise, and I can't wait to wear one of her designs someday on a red carpet. Because I think disability inclusion and accessibility is so important within the fashion industry, within the entertainment industry, financial, every industry should have disability representation. So Casey, I can't wait to wear one of your amazing dresses on the red carpet when you're an incredibly well-known fashion designer and I am starring in a movie, maybe as Virginia Hall, World War II amputee spy who is incredible, and I would dream of playing her someday in a movie, which might happen. There might be a movie, but they may not be auditioning people with disabilities for that role. That's a whole other story. But thank you again for watching, for tuning in, and I can't wait to see you again soon.